Here we go. The whole class has been about inclusion. Inclusion it's a mindset, it's a state of mind. Either you believe wholeheartedly that children with disabilities, both mental and physical, should be included in the classroom along with their neurotypical peers, or you don't. So here's inclusion right here. This is what inclusion looks like. Doesn't look like this. You can't just separate them down the hall. Inclusion itself is a very recent development, and not until the 1970s were kids included mainstream. 1973, the Vocational Rehabilitation Act, with Section 504, prevents discrimination of people with disabilities in public programs with federal funds. If you need accommodations, you do a 504 plan stating what they are. 1990, ADA prohibits discrimination in the workplace. People with disabilities, your employers have to give reasonable accommodations. Google can spend $500,000 to make everything wheelchair accessible, all their buildings, all their buses. Granny's Bake Shop on the second floor that makes $10,000 a year probably can't do that. That would not be a reasonable accommodation in that case. IDEA in 1997 comes up with the individual education plan with teachers, parents, and the student, if they are willing and able, all coming together, saying what their goals are, what they can't do, strengths, weaknesses, kind of thing. FAPE, free, appropriate public education with LRE, at least restrictive learning environment. If you can include, you should include. If you can't, work to get there. All students are assessed with appropriate accommodations, extra time, read the thing aloud, okay? 2001, No Child Left Behind, that accountability comes into play with those assessments. All students are assessed. The school rating and the teacher pay is determined by how well they do on the tests. That's good and bad, but it's good because it gives students with special needs, it makes them relevant. Okay, Title I funding, that's good for low-income communities. Schools need to make adequate yearly progress. If they don't for 2 years, bad things happen, you get sanctions, and teachers have to be highly qualified. Here's what traditional instruction looks like. This has been the norm. While all those laws have also changed, we've also changed the traditional model we want to go to Universal Design for Learning, UDL. So what that does is, in terms of inclusion, in terms of kids with disabilities, say you can't hear. Well, multiple means of representation, you would have visuals, speech to text, software that you could use, okay? Maybe just like sign language kind of thing. If you can't see, you'll have audio, you'll have all this stuff going on at the same time. So there's different ways, different modes you get it, and it also depends on learning styles. You can get it that way. Multiple means of engagement. You're gonna learn through a book, or an activity, or you're gonna learn through a field trip, different things you can do. An expression, take a test, write an essay, do a PowerPoint, all these different ways, do another project kind of thing, quilt. Currently, the Florida standards are leaning towards UDL. We have active learning with Common Core. It opposes traditional instruction. You need to be more involved, more hands-on, more process-focused. It goes from understanding a few key concepts rather than memorizing everything. So it's a focus on STEM. Basically focuses on things that can be, you'll be successful, you'll get a job, and we can test. We have accountability that still comes into play. Testing, we need more UDL assessments because we have all this creative curriculum, all this creative instruction, and we're still testing the same way. We need to make sure that while we're focusing on STEM, we need to integrate the arts and the social sciences into it, because what happens if you don't know how to communicate? What happens if you don't know how to be creative? You're bogged down and you're being asked to be creative. It's important. Technology can be useful for that. You can use PowerPoints, like I said, for UDL. Have them have tablets or laptops. They can look it up, increase, decrease the size. They have speech to text, text to speech, just normal scratch work. MathShell has they have a whole bunch of lessons that are geared towards the Common Core curriculum standards. And they also get students involved, get students very active. That was my first application activity. You can look at that. Khan Academy was my third application activity. It's a gaming website where students compete to get points, but the points are earned through doing lessons, watching videos of math concepts, biology concepts, anything. Email, just in case students don't feel comfortable talking face to face, they can email me. They'll learn how to email, communicate with people. I want them to tell me what they like, what they don't like, what I should change about my class. You got to consider all of these things, and we've talked about all of them. They come together like a puzzle. One thing we didn't touch on so far is behavior. There are limits to inclusion. If their student is extremely disruptive, or if they're a danger to others, you can't include them. Got to figure out something else. Here's labels belong on jars, not people. Famous quote by a famous teacher. Teacher behavior can affect student learning also. You treat them as labels. You go, oh, you're a special kid. And I say that to inflict that meaning. You treat kids like that. It creates a stigma. You're not encouraging them. You're not challenging them. You're maybe challenging them too much. Inclusion's a mindset. You got to be on the right side of that. Right? A student, like I said, could not be challenged enough, could be too challenged. They might not be engaged. How do you figure this out? Well, you can take the test and see if they pass. And if they don't, it's kind of too late. You just took the test. You can look at them in the class, but you also have to be teaching. There's a lot of kids. There's a little bit of times. Ideally, you want a co-teacher, a special educator to go around. One lead, one support. You'd be teaching. They could go around and look, try to support students, see what the problems are, and identify them to you. Station teaching, they go into stations. Parallel teaching, you teach one corner, the other teacher teaches the other corner. You come together, see what happened. Alternative teaching is a really good one that I would use in the future. I didn't. I used one lead, one support for my activity too, but I would use alternative teaching because it's the best one. One teacher teaches the lesson, teaches the content, teaches what they're going to be doing. The other teacher observes, tweaks what they're doing based on what the other teacher is instructing, lets them know on feedback later on, like what kids were engaged, what kids weren't. Then you flip. The other teacher's doing all that observation, and you're over there too. You're leading an activity so they can apply what they just learned, creates deeper learning. Team learning is just tag team person content with two people. Not so effective. Facilitative support, special ed teacher can come in while you're teaching or during your planning period, observe or brainstorm with you, make some lesson plans, UDL content suggestions, or if you have a student that's not behaving, you can deal with that. Other things to consider, maybe students in general have reading, writing, or social skills difficulties. They could have some disorders that impact this stuff. They could have dyslexia, means they can't read very well. Dysgraphia means they have issues with writing. Learning disabilities or physical disabilities in general. Maybe they can't move their arms, they can't write that way. Maybe they have autism, a spectrum disorder, some anxiety disorder, so they can't interact very readily with people. In either case, you can use therapy, you can use professional counseling, you can use just instruction on how to interact, on how to do these things. Make sure you cover the groundworks for what your activities are going to be covering. And it'll make it easier to comprehend and less intimidating all around. Here are the references. All images I got from Google. All other material I didn't just reference comes from class, taught by the fabulous Dr. Deeker. She's great. Highly recommend. And that's it, you guys. Stop it.